This is hard work because we're balancing the computer on my knees, well, on a pillow on my knees, because we wanted to sit on the couch, or mostly I didn't want to stand up. And also, my computer's about to run out of battery. So, hello and welcome to the show. Catherine is not very good at being in the picture, even though I'm clearly leaning far away. You just have to not move, Catherine. You just
Be
have
closer.
to be
Don't
closer, but don't move. Okay. All right. My knees are too pointy is the problem.
You're pointing.
Okay. All right. So there's readings in the Bible. You probably should have put it on you because I think I'm gonna move more because I'm like that. Like in Ezekiel when God said some things. Okay, sorry. Talks about taking the children of Israel from among the nations to which they've come and gathering them from all sides to bring them back to their land. This is Ezekiel 37, starting at 21. I will make them one nation upon the land of the mountains of Israel, and there shall be one prince for them all. Never again shall they be two nations, and never again shall they be divided into two kingdoms. Now, again, this is something that's hard for us to understand because we don't know the context. We don't understand the incredible animosity that the people of Israel and the people of Judah had towards one another, what it meant that the Israelites had been deported, had been spread throughout the land, but it gives us some sense, if we imagine that the Civil War had worked, right, the way that we feel about each other. I used this example in Maryland, Southern Maryland the other day, and I was like, and you guys are on the,
Northern?
Well, the state of Maryland, yes, but Southern Maryland is like tobacco farms and Amish people, and so I was like, which do you feel like? And they were all like, and I was like, cool. So I have a friend over there who's from Texas, how she would feel. But this division is not just between the Israelites and the Judeans, but it's also the division that we feel, between Americans and other countries that we might be bombing at a given moment, or between different ethnicities, within families, the rage that we feel at each other over things that have happened in the past. He's promising a unity. He's promising that we're not going to be divided anymore. And that idea of heaven, not just a place where, like, you get to be cool with God, but the place where, like, you don't have to hate anybody and you don't have to, like, be angry at anybody. I don't know. I just find that encouraging.
I really like most people.
Catherine likes everybody. This is super fruitful, Catherine. Thank you for that.
I just feel like I would like people to not hate me, though, so that would be cool.
Well, and not hate each other.
Yeah, no, I know. And like, everyone be nice to each other. That'd be, like in Mean Girls, where they're like, I just want everyone to be nice to each other. I feel that every day.
Okay.
And she's like, she doesn't even go here. You don't know.
We're really upping the intellectual caliber of the vlog by the Mean Girls references. No, I have a Mean Girls reference that I make like all the time that gets me laugh every time. But this everlasting covenant with the sanctuary of God among us forever, God's dwelling with us. I mean, this is something that at one level as Catholics we already experience, right? Like God being here in our midst, that there is unity in the church around the tabernacle. And this is something that you don't necessarily see too much in North Georgia. But, I'll go to churches where I look around and you can tell from the way people look and from the languages their missals are in and from the way that they're dressed, like, that we have every continent except Antarctica represented, like in adoration chapels, when you just look around and you're like, this is the gospel that has gone forth to all nations, and there is no barrier anymore, and for the Israelites, the members of Israel and Judah who would hear this and hear God saying, like, not only are they going to be reconciled, but also, like, the Gentiles be reconciled to God, and, like, to become okay with that and to be like, yeah, I want the salvation of the Gentiles. I want the salvation of ISIS. Like, yeah. I want the salvation of Hitler. I want the salvation of Genghis Khan. Like, I want I want the salvation of
Meg Hunter-Kilmer.
of the people who killed the martyrs. You know, like I love when you have martyr stories where they're
Like
assailant, like Maria Goretti, where Alessandro's cause for canonization is under consideration, you know, or like Saints Timothy and Mora, the man who killed them is himself a canonized saint. You know, to see those things and to recognize, like Stephen and Paul, you know, that when Paul was killed and when he went to heaven, Stephen was there like, dude, look, isn't this amazing? You know, and that like there isn't going to be that anger and that animosity, like it's just going to be joy. And so I tend to like pray for the great villains of history in the hopes that, you know, in their ignorance they will be more gently treated. And some people pray for Kesha, you know, like maybe she's amazing. I literally know that her name is spelled with $, and that's it. That's all I know about Kesha. So this is not a judgment on Kesha. And then the psalm was actually from Jeremiah, right? The Lord will guard us as a shepherd guards his flock. The Lord will ransom Jacob, redeem him from the hand of his conqueror. And, you know, just knowing that in the Old Testament that the relative, the redeemer, I mean, that's your nearest, your closest kin, right? And so the way that Jesus manages to become our redeemer is by making himself one of us. Because if he's not our kin, then he can't redeem us. And, you know, so it's this sort of like mixed imagery of the Redeemer, like Goel, I think is what it is in Hebrew, but I haven't actually studied Hebrew, so I just like repeat things that I've heard. And that I will turn their mourning into joy, console and gladden them after their sorrows. That's the promise, not just of the future time to come, but also of what the Lord can do in our lives today, right? Things to say, word, anything that's not about Kesha or Mean Girls. So
I said Maria Goretti.
He did say that was holy. And then in the gospel, it's John 11. And we see this is after the resurrection of Lazarus. And at that point, you know, the Jews have tried to conspire against Jesus, tried to have him arrested, tried to kill him multiple times. But at this point, they're like, okay, we're done. Like, this guy is going to be killed. So the chief priests and the Pharisees convened the Sanhedrin and said, what are we going to do? This man is performing many signs. If we leave him alone, all will believe in him. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing. That's really a gentle way of saying that. Nor do you consider that it is better for you that one man should die instead of the people so that the whole nation may not perish. And then John comments, he did not say this on his own, but since he was high priest for that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation. Now, I love that the high priest is sort of accidentally right there.
Yeah.
You know, that he doesn't realize that he's saying it's better for the priest that Jesus shed his blood for them and that he die instead of the nation, that he be the substitutionary sacrifice. But what John says there is because he was high priest, he prophesied that. You know, that the high priest still has God's favor and that it's not because he's clever, but it's because of his office. You know, and we've talked in this blog before about how we have to respect the office of the Pope and of the magisterium and even of priests and allow them to wield that authority because there is a certain way in which God blesses authority figures and other ways in which God apparently withholds his wisdom. But I find it intriguing that God is able to work even through Caiaphas's ugly motives to make that beautiful statement about the substitutionary sacrifice of Christ. And just to think about in our lives how often we're doing disastrous and ridiculous things and God's like, cool, I can work with that, right? Or we're like encountering really upsetting things and God's like, this is awful, but I can work with that. You know, just the way that providence is able to transform the frustrating and the evil and the stupid and the broken and make incredible things happen. Give us a story from your life, Catherine.
About
one time when something was bad and God made it work for good, Catherine.
One time when things were bad and God made it work for good.
Sounds like a college application.
This is like awful.
This is like all I do in my life. Is
I know.
Like,
well, you think of one first. And I'll think of one.
Okay, fine. Like the time that my master cylinder went out and it was going to cost me like $1 million to fix my car, and then I was like, God, you can't fix this. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay, I just rose from the dead. No big deal. And then I put something on my blog and was like, I hate everything. This will never be okay. And a random stranger was like, oh, I'm going to buy you a plane ticket, and flew me to your house. Yeah, to hang out with you for my birthday. And also like to do a bunch of ministry and like serve people and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's true. But, you know, I mean, like, this is something that I really experience as a hobo a lot, is just the way that my plan gets ruined, and I'm so frustrated. And, like, what happened may, in fact, be a bad thing, but God's like, yes, but I am working in that. You know, for Caiaphas to stand here and say that, it's better for you that one man should die instead of the people, so the whole nation may not perish. Caiaphas doesn't realize that that's the Spirit of God saying, like, oh, like, I'm about to save my people through the death of this one man.
I have one now.
Great, Catherine has one now.
So when I went to UGA, it was really, really, well, I'm sorry, unnamed college. That was number one party school. When I went to unnamed college, that was number one party school. Mm-hmm. And, like, there just weren't that many holy people there at the time. And people were really just interested in getting drunk and being mean. So I hated it to the degree of being on the chapel floor one Friday night crying because I had to go pick up a friend from a frat party after. I was like trying to stay up. So, but like that was just so bad that it pushed me to Ave, which was Ave Maria University, plug, wonderful college, and got to meet my husband and get a cool degree and meet all my friends. And it was a really good experience, but it had to really suck first.
Yeah.
Or stink.
Right. Good
Apology.
Yeah, and so I guess that looking at Caiaphas and looking at the first reading and seeing like how God says, I'm going to bring good out of all this ugliness, and with Caiaphas, how God's like, okay, I'm going to work in this ugliness, to try and have that perspective. And when things are frustrating and when you have like a terrible experience and you're like so angry at somebody, or like, you know, the red light ruins your life, which is usually what my issue is, because bad things don't really happen to me, but like minor inconveniences happen, and then I hate the whole world. To be like, oh wait, but like God is still God, right? And God is still sovereign even in traffic jams, and God is still sovereign even when somebody feeds me food I don't like, and God is still sovereign even if that person said something ugly on the internet, like, and He can work through this, and I may see that happen, and I may not see it happen. But, like, the fact remains that even those who watched Jesus die on the cross then walked away and never heard about the empty tomb, like, God was still working even there. And so it's just sort of this experience for me where I have to continually remind myself, this is where God has worked in my life. This is where God has worked in my life. This is where God has worked in my life. So that when I can't see what He's doing, I'm still able to trust Him.
Word.
Now, God is working a miracle that the computer is still working right now, but I think it might not last forever. So, happy Saturday. It's almost Holy Week. You're so excited.
My last cameo.